timelines are different than us. I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of Center for Global and Strategic Studies. Center for Global and Strategic Studies is an Islamabad-based think tank, and today's topic of the international online conference is the reopening of the educational institutes post-COVID-19, effects and precautions to be observed. So we have in total of 7 speakers today, and first the speakers will speak, and after that we will be asking for question answers and for the comments. So before we formally start, I would like to welcome our speakers. We have a speaker from Hungary. We have, so welcome to you, sir. And then we have 2 speakers from China. Welcome to both of you. And then in audience, we have people from Sri Lanka and Russia and China also. So the good part of the conference today is that we have the audience and representation from the South Asia also, from Russia also, from China also, from Europe also, and of course from Pakistan also. So this will give us, all of us, a variety of ideas, and we'll discuss that. So I will not waste more time. And first of all, I would like to introduce you and invite Major General Khalid Amir Jafri. Major General Khalid Amir Jafri is a retired military senior officer, and he also remained Pakistan's ambassador to Bosnia. He is the president of the Center for Global and Strategic Studies. So he would just introduce the topic. General Jafri, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, Assalamu alaikum and good morning or good evening, as the case may be, to all our friends who have joined us from abroad. COVID-19, as you all know, has really taken everybody by surprise and has more or less thrown the world into a state of imbalance. This has forced the governments and the people to take some very difficult decisions, whether to lock down, smart lockdown, not to lock down, and so on. The closure of the schools and universities for everyone, of course, is a very, very important factor, and now the possible reopening of the educational institutions. Due to the diverse environments in various countries, no single standard can be applied and no single model can be. In the UK, the move to reopen schools on June 1st has been met with strong opposition due to some very valid reasons also. In Denmark and Germany, they were reopened. In Asia, people have taken the leap. China, students face temperature checks before they can enter the schools, and cafeteria tables are fitted with the plastic dividers. In Australia, schools are being opened in staggered stages, and so on. Every country has a different environment. In Pakistan also, the environment is very different from other countries. In our case, in our schools, private schools, especially at times in houses, small places, small spaces, the concept of social distancing cannot really be applied. It is impossible really to keep students at a safe distance. Such video classes have been carried out, and the exams, of course, have been postponed, and some people are being promoted without the exams, and so on. Parents, obviously, they are divided. Most of them are concerned for their children. They do not want their children to be experimented upon. So also,
unfortunately, we have lost his connection. So now we will formally start the session. And in this session, the first, I would just request all the speakers to please use the 10 minutes allotted time to you, so that we can have a comprehensive question answer session later. So first of all, I would like to introduce you Professor Dr. Niaz Ahmed. Professor Dr. Niaz Ahmed is
Khalid, should I continue? Should I start?
No, sir, let me just, I was introducing you. Professor Dr. Niaz Ahmed is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Punjab. Let me just tell you briefly about the University of the Punjab. The University of Punjab is the oldest university, one of the oldest university in the subcontinent and the biggest university in Pakistan. It has 47,000 students. And presently, it is led by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Niaz Ahmed. Professor Dr. Niaz Ahmed, sir, you can start.
Thank you very much, Colonel Khalid. I'm grateful to CGSS, especially to Colonel Khalid and General Jaffrey, who has given us this opportunity to communicate with my counterparts in the part of the world from China, Russia, Hungary, and my own colleagues from Pakistan, Dr. Akram, Dr. Asif Ali, and Faisal Mushtaq. Really, I think you are playing a very key role in this time of crisis. A few days back, we had a webinar, and that was with Azerbaijan. And today, I think you have assembled the educational institutions, the leader of the educational institution, what they feel and what are the challenges to them. Yes, I remember last month, 2 months back, we are a conventional institution where the virtual education is not there. The conventional classroom, face-to-face learning environment. So abruptly, we got this environment where the educational institutions were closed down. So immediately, within 10 to 12 days, we were shifted into the online sessions. I think that this was again an opportunity for my oldest institutions to safeguard the future of the students. And we were able to say, because we were almost closing the session, that was in February. In April, May, we closed down the session. So if we were closing the universities in February or in March, then it means we had lost the whole year of the students. So immediately we started the online classes. After the completion of the classes, which will be completed on 31st of May, then we are having a summer break. And after the summer break, we will come back, we will assemble with the hope that this coronavirus situation may get normal and we will be going with the traditional exams. But at the same time, we have said if the traditional exams we are unable to hold this exam, then the exams will be online. Again, a challenging situation where first time we are going with the exam with 300 centers, and each centers will be invigilated by one of the proctor. Therefore, we have designed that strategy again in order to, because that was the decision of our highest statutory bodies, that we will not immediately, especially for the outgoing final year students, that on the basis of their previous grade, we should promote them into, we should give them the certificate and they should go into the market. Therefore, the academic council and the executive body of the university syndicate, they decided that we will have the exams, we will have the mini projects, open book exams, and that we expect in August. However, having said that, some issues after, if the situation gets normal, as the webinar, the title indicates, its effects and precautions. And we have already started working. We have constituted 3 universities committee in which CGSS is also the partner. and we are working on it, that how we will be opening the universities, because this is about 3 months, after 3 months, 4 months, we are not clear that when the government bodies will allow us to open the universities, one, and secondly, what will be the shape of the same building. We need the reconfiguration of the buildings. What will be the mode of teaching again? How many students we will allow? Again, the postgraduate students are what will be the status of the undergraduate students? Because in the university like Punjab University or the Islamic University Bahawalpur, where the student body is quite large. In one room, 4 to 5 students are residing in the hostels, where kitchens are common rooms are common, dining halls are common, washrooms are common. So again, we have to take care of all the health and safety of the students, as well as the employees, as well as the teacher. For this purpose, we are developing the clear-cut guidelines for the students, for the faculty members, and for the employees. Immediately, in the first phase, we have thought that perhaps in middle of July, when the government is going to revisit, review the decisions about the COVID-19, the opening of different organizations, and if the universities and colleges are allowed, then in the first phase, we may allow about 20%, fifth of the staff to join the university, the departments, and for that purpose, again, the admissions, because August, September, we will have the admissions too. We are formulating the policies, how many, on which basis we should grant the admissions. If it is, for example, BS programs as decided by the government, we will on the first year part, 11th grades students, when they have qualified the 12th grade. So on the basis of secondary school plus the FSC part 1, we will be awarding the, granting the admissions. So my team at the moment, admission committee, is working on it. So on one side, we are preparing the SOPs for the students, faculty, and employees. At the same time, we are having the admission committee, which is deciding how we should proceed with the admissions. Last week, we have the academic councils where we decided these exams time framework, and that has been approved through circulation by the syndicate. And I have shared with you that policy about the exams. And similarly, health and safety officers, first time we have appointed in the university, who will prioritize the students, which students should enter, where is the priority of the students, and the supervisor who is in the final year and immediately needs few days, few weeks, so that they should complete the coursework. The coursework, of course, is completed the lab work, and submit the thesis and should be in the market. I think the good opportunities which I think emerged from this corona, that is about the virtual education, because the conventional education which my university for the last 100 years have been working, that is now, you know, in Pakistan, 9% of the applicants, they get admission in the universities. So in this way, for example, this seminar being organized by CGSS, hundreds, maybe even thousands of the people may join this seminar. The same, maybe I was registering myself in one of the course in Harvard, and when I found what is my number, it was about 50,000. So 50,000 people were already registered. So in that way, you can reach to the maximum peoples of the society who can not reach to the university. In that way, we can reach to the towns, to the villages through this virtual education. Another thing at the moment, you can see the international institutions. Today, we are having this discussion about this post-COVID situation. My colleagues from Hungary, China, Russia, and other part of the world, they are participating. So one of the important parameters to train is about the internationalization. So we can invite the international speakers through the online systems, through the video conferencing, that they can deliver the lectures and our students can register in their programs, and the students can register in our universities when the teacher is delivering the lecture. However, 3 points I think the universities are established to create the knowledge, transfer the knowledge, and train the students, inculcate the moral values, ethics. When I looked into the objectives, the mission of the universities, the first part, creation of knowledge, at the moment, especially in the science and technology area, where we are stuck now, we cannot create the knowledge because our researchers cannot enter into the labs. Therefore, we need to design the strategy, as I have mentioned, that we can prioritize some of the laboratories, we can fix a number of students on workstations, so that this work should be started, and the normal routine and the creation of knowledge purpose, the thrust of knowledge should come from the laboratories. And the second part is about the training. I think, again, to inculcate the moral values, the ethics, the training part of the students, again, this is missing, because the knowledge they can get from the books, they can get from the internet, but at the same time, the personality, the human beings, the humanities, the values comes from the teachers. That part is missing. We are working on it, how we can fill this gap for the training of the students. So I think the big challenge is there, and at the moment, I'm not certain that what will be the shape of this virus will make in the next couple of months. But at the same time, the universities are here, the brains, the beautiful brains are available in the university. The answer should come from the universities to the society, and that is why I congratulate my colleagues, that CGSS, General Jaffrey, Colonel Khalid, and my colleagues who are sitting on this webinar. I think in that way, in that collaboration, coordination, the few points I have added, and I will be more happy to get some of the feedback from my colleagues. In that way, in that collaboration, we can serve the society, which is the prime purpose of these great institutions. Thank you very much, Khalid, and I will be available for further discussion.
Thank you very much, sir, and I'm sure we will have lots of questions for you at the end. Now we would go to China in Beijing. From China, Beijing, we have Professor Zhu Wenhong with us. He is currently working in the Institute of Russian, East European, Central Asian Studies in the China Academy of Social Sciences in Beijing. We would like to know from him that since in the post-COVID situation, the universities have started opening in China, especially in Wuhan and in Beijing. So we would request Professor Zhu Wenhong to share and tell us what is happening in China. Professor Zhu. Okay, I'm sorry, Professor Zhu's probably his audio is not working. We will again stay in China, and we would go to Ms. Wang. Ms. Wang basically represents the China Media Group in Beijing, and she is actively covering over there in China, and she will be telling us that what is happening in China on schools and colleges. Ms. Wang, yes.
Assalamualaikum. Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me to join the session. Although I'm not a journalist in the education field, as a mother of a primary school student, I myself have been watching closely on the topic when to resume classes. The good news is that due to the effective containment of the epidemic in China, nearly 40% of students, that is almost 100 million students, have returned to school, where classes are resuming in an orderly manner. This is the latest figure released on the press conference last week. So that's a very interesting piece of news that I would like to share with you. Some parents have received some tips from the school suggesting that they should show a little bit sadness instead of happiness when they send their children back to school. So as this, we can see that the resumption of school is such a relief for most of the parents in China. I still remember the prerequisite announced by the authority when the time to resume school was asked. When the time to resume schools was asked, 3 conditions need to be met. First of all, the epidemic is basically under control. The second, the campus prevention and control measures are in place. The third, the public health safety of teachers and the students should be can be guaranteed. So in practice, the Ministry of Education have ordered different schedules for primary and secondary schools to start new semesters, allowing senior students to resume classes in advance. Therefore, the students to attend the college entrance examination were the first batch to return to school in China. Now, Beijing, let's talk about Beijing, the city where I am living in. Beijing is relatively late in terms of the resumption of school. The date of return for students in the final of senior high school is April the 27th. And for those in their final year of junior high school is the 11th of May. Starting from June, the rest of students are presumed to be back to school accordingly, including the kindergarten, which are allowed to reopen after June the 8th. College in Beijing are allowed to start classes on the 7th of June, provided they have academic control and prevention capabilities. Unfortunately, for primary school students in grade 1 and 2, there's no specific date of the return is announced yet. So for me personally, my good day is still a long way to come. So after 4-month leave, due to the outbreak at home, the resumption of school is definitely welcomed by the parents in China, especially for those who have resumed work and have to ask grandparents to take care of their children. So meanwhile, for the teachers and school faculties, it would pose a big challenge for them as well. According to the official from the Ministry of Education, strict precautions will be taken. Their goal is to facilitate students' return to school and to the utmost while epidemic control rules are still implemented. Even so, a certain number of parents interviewed by the media have no plan to send their children back to school or kindergarten because of the health concerns. If we take a close look at schools in Beijing, in some districts like Daxing and Fengtai, schools only accept teachers and students who have stayed in Beijing for at least 14 days, and everyone is required to take a test, to take a nucleic acid tests when they return to school. And almost all the schools have set up smart thermometer facility, and students are asked to check body temperature twice a day. And in fact, AI high technology products are widely used during the epidemic times. A few days ago, I personally witnessed an AI robot which can check body temperature and send alerts on petrol. My daughter likes it a lot. So in addition to the hardware that I just mentioned, schools require parents to send daily report on children's health and their routines of the activities. This has been practiced for quite a long time, ever since the outbreak. Moreover, schools have to make emergency response plans to cope with the risk of virus transmission before resuming classes. Some even are equipped with special vehicles to transfer people with symptoms to hospitals. Still in Beijing, the discipline inspection department also dispatched several teams to schools to check their disinfection measures. As we can see, during this very special time of the epidemic period, nothing is that easy, including the resumption of classes in China. Thank you, Khalid Saib. This is the situation in China.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will again come back to you during the question and answer session. Now we will go to a Pakistani city which is known as Bahawalpur. It is a city in South Punjab in Pakistan. And there we have the largest university of the South Punjab, which is known as the Islamia University Bahawalpur. And the Vice Chancellor of this university is Engineer Professor Dr. Athar Mehboob. So Professor Dr. Athar Mehboob would tell us about the reopening of the educational institutes and what measures are they taking in the South Punjab.
Thank you, Colonel Khalid, and a very warm hello from my end to all the participants of this CGSS organized webinar. The Islamia University of Bahawalpur is a large public sector university with more than 25,000 students and 3,000 employees. And it has been operating on the traditional physical face-to-face paradigm. And the students and the teachers in general, they in the pre-COVID-19 world, they were in close proximity. And, you know, a large number of students, more than 6,000 students live in the university hostels. So once the university reopens in the post-COVID-19 world, where social distancing paradigm has to be enforced in order to prevent the transmission of this highly contagious COVID-19 virus and other viruses which may emerge in the future. So, in order to meet those challenges, we'll have to reconsider, because the classrooms, the laboratories, the hostels, they have been designed for close proximity of the students, the teachers, and the participants. Now, one of the options would be to reduce the class size, but it is not feasible for us because the number of rooms and the spaces are already limited. So the other option would be to change a lot of interaction to the online mode. So in every course, the contact time can be reduced, so thereby reducing the probability. The class sizes can be reduced, and then the extra sessions, the workload that comes on the teachers will have to be catered for through the online interaction. And in this new post-COVID world, we'll have to undertake the development of a lot of modules and capabilities into the learning management systems, because the traditional learning management systems, their development has catered for the very standard interaction and activities. Now the domain specific activities for each different subject, the laboratory tools will also have to be virtualized. In some of the areas like computer programming, the virtual programming laboratories are available, but in other domains and other subjects, the virtual environments will have to be developed with domain specific capabilities. So in order for us to meet the objective of social distancing and minimizing close physical contact. The other thing is that the COVID-19 crisis has taught all of us that we need to learn a lot more. There is a lot many things that we don't fully understand, how the viruses work, the virology and the immunology, the human immune system, and the response of the immune system to the viruses, and how to effectively strengthen our immune systems to fight off the threats of the viruses. Now, in this COVID crisis, also what has emerged that there are different patterns of mortality and morbidity in different geographical regions, and different economical and social backgrounds in different countries have exhibited different patterns. In some countries, the death rate has been very high, the infection rate has been very high. In other countries, despite the lack of a good healthcare system, the infection rate has been low, or as far as we know, it has been reported to be low. So in last 3 to 4 months, we have observed certain patterns that have emerged, and we need to keep a very close watch over the next 3 to 4 months about other patterns that will emerge, or the need to study those patterns. So one of the other things is that we need to devote in the universities our research into these very issues of virology and immunology, and attract the best students to do research in microbiology. uh, and then the whole public health systems in different countries have to be re-examined, whether they meet the requirements of the challenges which are being faced in public health domain. Due to the globalization, the spread of the viruses is very rapid. The international travel has been closed for last 3 to 4 months, and that creates a lot of impact on the interaction between the universities, the transfer of knowledge, the traveling of the students from one country to another country to attend universities, etc. So the whole paradigm of learning has to be re-examined, and more, I think the universities would need to shift towards the online mode, rather than standard 3 contact hours per week for every course. Maybe the contact hours would have to be reduced to half that amount, by having half the students at one time and other half at the other time, because the rooms and the space that we have will not magically increase. And then the other challenge is that the new admissions that have to be done, because the high schools, they did not have their annual exams, the final exams, and then on the partial academic performance, the admissions would have to be given. And at the same time, universities like Islamia University of Bahawalpur and the Punjab University, which conduct a lot of external examinations. Now, the external examinations have been, for the most part, paper-based. And now those very examinations of students in excess of 70,000 have to be conducted either through online technologies in a very, very distributed environment, where social distancing limitations, make it a very challenging proposition. So we are still grappling with the problem, and we are thinking about it. Of course, the online tests have, appear to be a solution, but they have their own challenges. It is very difficult to proctor if the online exam is given where the student is attempting from the home or an unsupervised location. Whereas if you want to conduct it in a supervised location, then with the social distancing, the number of people you can accommodate in a room or a testing center is limited, and you need to conduct a very large number of examination sessions. So these are all of the things which are being, considered in our academic council and our dean's committee. And the students are also very anxious in this time of crisis. The students are also interested in knowing how the university is going to decide the policies. So a lot of our policies depend on what kind of restrictions the government will impose on the university in the interest of public health. And then working within those constraints, which are very challenging, we will have to come up with something which will initially appear to be compromised in some ways. However, in the long run, I feel that all the universities would need to adapt to these online testing and online educational technologies, which we have already done the transition in the form of a blended learning model, and in terms of this COVID, meeting the challenges of the COVID crisis. So it's a very challenging next 3 to 4 months for all the community of the university, the researchers, the PhD and MPhil students, those who do their research in the laboratories. They are insisting on being provided access to the laboratory so they can complete their research, whereas those who have already either completed their research in the labs, or those whose research does not require laboratory facilities, they have already been facilitated by the use of online meeting software to conduct their MPhil and MS and PhD thesis defense. So some of the things, they are very much amenable to online mode, like the oral examinations, but then other parts of the learning process, the research work, it requires access to physical facilities, where I think a lot of clarity is needed on the minimum protocols which are necessary. So these are some of the thoughts that we have here from the Islamia University of Bahawalpur.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we would again try to link up with Professor Zhu in China. Professor Zhu, can you hear? Yes, now your turn. So I've already introduced Professor Zhu before. Professor Zhu is currently working in the China Academy of Social Sciences, and he deals in the Institute of Russia, East Europe and Central Asian Studies. Professor Zhu, your turn.
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah. Khalid, can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Dear Khalid, dear friends, good afternoon. It's my great honor to make this speech at this very special event. Thank you for inviting me to be with all these good educational instructors. Talking about the effects and precautions to be observed in the whole process of the COVID-19, I would address on 5 more practical measures which might be very useful in the whole process of the COVID-19. First, the measures to be taken before the educational institutes reopen. The first, to know the basic health condition of all students, faculty, know their recent travel records, know their contact with infected people, etc. Just as one of the first and foremost measures to be taken before the educational institute reopen. The second will be also will be very important to tell all students, parents of students, educational instructors, faculty members about the epidemic through different channels, to tell them the importance and the threat, potential threat of the pandemic. Third, I would say I would address the cleaning and disinfection of all main places at all educational institutions. Fourth point will be all the educational institutes should have a reasonable planning of all the activity places at a educational institute, including medical isolation places. Fifth will be the educational institute should make a storage of all medical supplies, including masks, thermometers, and disinfectants. The second more important measures to be taken after the education institutes reopened. The first will be make a prevention and control plan in advance to let all the students, faculty members, parents, and staff to familiar with all the key points of all the emergency plan. To monitor the health condition of all students and staff, faculty members, make a health care record. Third, to strengthen the ventilation and cleaning in main places at all educational institutes. Try to avoid using air conditions. For such places which with more frequent use, try to disinfect them more frequently. Also, should strengthen the management at all educational institutes and strengthen the management at all school restaurants. When we talk about the management at the school or educational institutes, the first, all the restaurant staff need to check their check their temperature every day. Strengthen the management of all material supply of the restaurant. To check the health condition of all the delivery person and ask them to wear masks and disposable gloves frequently, and monitor the food production process. During the whole process of food production, should wear masks and wear masks during food sales. Also, to arrange students to have their meals at different time, distribute the meals to all units directly to reduce all unnecessary meetings and gatherings. Also, I would stress on one important fact that we should pay more attention on the waste management. Just like all personal conventional waste should be well disinfected, and all medical waste should have specific treatment, should be disinfected. When the pandemic happened at any educational institute, in case of fever, cough, then should inform the family immediately to get the right medical treatment. In case of the staff get infected, ask them leave the school immediately and to get the right medical treatment. And also, in time to report to the local educational administrative authorities, help the medical and educational authorities to investigate the source, to collect the samples, to monitor the close contact with the newly funded samples, to isolate the newly funded samples, help them to get the right medical treatment, to help them to get in during the quarantine, help them to disinfect all the good connected with the new cases. Also, to those people who recovered from the pandemic, ask them to get the certificate from the medical institution before they came back to the classes or came back to work. The fourth point I would suggest on the psychological instruction: educate all the students and staff members to adjust their psychology, to ask them to help them to get the right treatment. Also help tell them to treat the COVID-19 scientifically. Once get infected with the disease, then to get the right treatment. If not, just scientifically take the scientific measures to prevent all kinds of disease. The fifth point I would say, if all the conditions are allowed, all the educational institutes might try to provide some online courses. Those 5 points is my main idea, which I think might be very useful in the whole process of the COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Zhu.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we will come back to you again for the question and answer session. And now we will come back again to Pakistan, and we will listen to the talk of Mr. Faisal Mushtaq. Mr. Faisal Mushtaq is the CEO of the Millennium Education School System. It is one of the biggest school system in the private sector in Pakistan. And he would tell us that what kind of preparations he and his institution are doing. Mr. Faisal.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would like to appreciate the role by the CGSS during the crisis, but not only just crisis. When it comes to research, it comes to policy, educational, national security. We have always seen a positive, inclusive, transnational role of CGSS. Our COVID and its impact on education, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID. Now, I always say, this is the biggest closure of educational institutions, including the schools, colleges, and university after the Second World War. And the world has not seen such a national, large, across the world closure of educational provision. Now, what do we need to do to come out of it? Firstly, we need to understand certain concepts. Look, the building is closed today, and the building can be closed tomorrow. Who knows that there may not be a second wave of the pandemic? If you look at the Spanish flu, there was 2 waves, and in fact, there was a 3rd one as well. So when we are talking about an act of God, an act of nature, an epidemic or a pandemic, the only thing which is certain is uncertainty. So what do we need to look at? We need to change the entire mindset and the ecosystem of education provision. The building of the university and school is closed, but not the university. The university and school is open, the building is closed. Now, what does that mean? That means we need to redefine altogether a new academic social contract. Now, what does that mean? We need to build trust for digital inclusive education. We need to build authenticity. We need to build digital academic honesty. We need to include a digital contract, and we also need to promote digital inclusion. Historically speaking, especially if we talk about Asian countries, not particularly Pakistan, if you talk about the Asian countries and the Near East, even Middle East, and I would say Southeast, the mindset was that the higher education and school education can only be on face-to-face basis. So the whole concept of visible education was promoted as more genuine, as more authentic, and as more sustainable. And we did not trust technology as a medium. Now, my message to the Asian countries is that in the past, we went from our regional and national languages like Urdu medium, we went into English medium. And now the future is digital medium. So like in the past, we used to say, oh, well, this is a X medium school. And now we say that the medium of instruction is English, because we are the 3rd largest English speaking, non-English speaking nation in the world. 110 million people speak English. So my key consideration is that the education planners, the education ministries, the policymakers, the vice chancellors, the thought leaders and academics, they need to come together and they need to build that trust for digital inclusion. The next is the social impact of closures on schools, because I do a lot of school education, huge social impact. Firstly, the perception was not rightly communicated to the parents, to the caregivers, to the districts and the community. Now, the physics is in the toys, the chemistry is in the kitchen, the biology is in the garden, artificial intelligence is in the laptops, and arts is in the color book of the child. So parents were given a perception across the world, from China to Pakistan, that, oh, the child is sitting at home or they're losing time. No, the children could be learning some real good life lessons. They could be learning about their history, about their culture, about their origin, about their identity. They could learn about the family. They say in the world that the best classroom in the world is called a family. So this was also a time to revisit the academic and the social contract vis-a-vis with the family and vis-a-vis with policy. Now, children had a lot of disruptive behaviors. They had anxiety, they had anger, they had behavioral issues, and they had meltdowns and tantrums. This is all very natural, because while they were at home and we were trying to pressurize them, oh, what is going to happen? We were talking about the uncertainty. Now, these things are natural. So in these times, as parents, as teachers, as policymakers, as society, as academics, we need to make sure that our children, we need empathy more than the exams. They need compassion more than the comparison. And they need the presence of the parents and the families and the mothers and fathers more than the presents. So this is my message for the school education. And then it comes to the higher education. Now, within the higher education, I am now talking about academic readiness. I'm talking about infrastructural readiness. So when the students, they will come back post-COVID to the universities, what is going to be the policy of social distancing, communication, well-being, healthiness, how to avoid? Will we have a panic room? Will we have temperature checks? So infrastructure readiness, schools, we have to invest. An education system like me, just for the post-COVID preparedness, I have approved a budget of 50 million Pakistani rupees, in which the students will have masks, they will have the anti-splash shields, all of them will walk through the sanitizing gates, and then all those other SOPs from, temperature. But most importantly, when we talk about the new normal has to be the one which has the social and emotional readiness, the psychological impact, the social and emotional readiness for the teachers, for the students, and for the parents. Our parents are scared. They think that they will send their child and they will get affected. We have to slowly build capacity and sensitize the teachers and the parents and the children that in the new normal, we really need to show precaution. But 100% assurance no school can give. So there will be cases of indemnification. There will be the cases of, parents will look for assurance. So indemnification and assurance, the modern day world, including China and United States, they have not been able to find the vaccine for the virus. So my request is that we need to focus in the higher education and the college education sector on digital readiness, on academic readiness, on social and emotional readiness, and on infrastructural readiness. And within that, we need a clear media strategy. I mean, media should not promote fear. Media should promote bridges. And we need to make that decision. Do we really need to go back to our classrooms, or to our lecture rooms? So for me, the most important aspect of this is the sense of preparedness for the new normal. No institution and no country alone can take responsibility that if it cannot happen again, because this is an act of nature. You cannot fight an act of nature. You can nurture the nature, but you can't fight the act of nature. And also, how long will we close our educational institutions and our classrooms and our lecture rooms and our research? Because the very failure of research today is the cause of this virus. If the global research, if the global understanding of the problems around humanity and mankind would have been rightly addressed, if we would not have spent our time and energy in fighting wars, creating differences, dividing nation states, and killing humanity, we would not have stood together. So for me, this is a dilemma. This is the time for soul searching for the world. At what have we done wrong? And to do so, we need to revisit and reopen our classrooms, our lecture rooms, our educational institution, and most importantly, a policy narrative and a mindset to create a safe, better, and a sustainable world for times to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And we will come back to you for the question answers. Now we will go to Budapest, Hungary. From Budapest in Hungary, we have Mr. Zoltan with us. He is the Secretary General of the Hungarian Rectors Conference in Budapest, and the Hungarian Rector Conference is an independent public corporation entitled to represent the higher education institutions and to protect the interest of the higher education in Hungary. The Hungarian Rector Conference also participate in the most important governance issues of higher education as a consultative organization in Hungary. So I would now request Mr. Zoltan, and your presentation is downloaded with us. First, you can talk and we'll also show your presentation, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. I will share my screen and my presentation with you. First of all, good afternoon. Good afternoon for all of you, and good morning in Europe, of course. It's an honor for me to be with you and to share my and the Hungarian Rectors Conference experiences about the pandemic. So a short introduction about our side. As you mentioned, the Hungarian Rectors Conference is a public corporation, and it represents the Hungarian higher education institutions. We have altogether 64 institutions in Hungary, 64 universities, 64 colleges, so we represent all of them here. I don't know if you see my presentation. I don't see my presentation on my screen, but I will continue without that. So during the pandemic, it was very important to, we started to share information, global reports, analyses, foreign institutions, experiences, and of course, we gave feedback and support about the Hungarian universities' experiences, and we provided assistance to them. A short introduction about our international activities. Of course, although we are a public corporation and our main duty is to represent the interest of the higher education institutions, but of course we organize a lot of events. We organized a lot of events with different foreign partners, rectors forums, different higher education roundtables, and of course we had a lot of delegations from different countries from all over the world, but it just stopped in this February. After it, we closed all of our events and postponed our international activities, and of course the national activities is organized on a virtual way. So if you see the international qualities of the Hungarian higher education, half of our universities, so nearly 30 universities, organize or conduct study programs in English, mainly in English. Some programs are available in German, French, Russian, and in Chinese. Our students' communities, 12% of our student community is foreigner We have currently nearly 3,000 students from China and nearly 1,000 students from Pakistan, altogether nearly 40, so 4,000 foreign students in Hungary, among the 300,000 Hungarian students. I have to mention the Stipendium Hungaricum tool, which is a scholarship program for incoming international students. And of course, Pakistan and China is also involved into this program. And let's see what we have done during the crisis, during the pandemic in the last 2 months. So it started in Hungary on the 11th of March, when the state of emergency was announced by the government. And since then, so it was a week when all of the primary, secondary schools and universities was closed, and it was prohibited to visit until further notice. But all of the schools, all of the universities must ensure the continuity of education. An institutional action plan is to be prepared by the higher education institutions by the 16th of March to ensure continuing distance learning. So this weekend was a very strange weekend, and on Monday morning, on the 16th of March, we saw empty universities and also empty schools, empty streets all over the country. On the 18th of March, sectoral proposals for organizing higher education in the state of emergencies was sent by the government to the universities. General governance provisions, recommendations related to the organizations of distance learning with a list of tools, and of course prolonged deadline for the completion of certain types of exams that require personal presence. And as I mentioned to you, the Stipendium Hungaricum scholarship program, we have a public foundation, it's called Tempus Public Foundation. The foundation on the 24th of March asked to reschedule the mobilities if possible, and send information to the students, to the foreign students, altogether 10,000 foreign students with the individual mobility program conducted by the Tempus Public Foundation, and the principles on what to do in case of interrupting a mobility. And of course, the foundation sent procedural guidance for international offices of the universities. Some problems and suggestions defined at an early stage in the first 2 weeks that some institutions had lack of technical preparation in the institutional side, lack of software, hardware availability in some cases, some very rare cases, and the issue of cheating during digital examination, this is a constant issue. The constant search for suitable methods compatible with written and online examination to monitor and identify this problem. And suggestions for examinations like extra prevention of cheating and authentication. Final examinations, both online and face-to-face exams, will be held depending the institution's decision. Course-related examination, creation of a larger examination question database, and then randomly assigned line of questions from the database could be a suitable solution for written examination with reducing the risk of cheating. Safety measures and regulations. Late March, the Rectors Conference made a quick survey among higher education institutions, among universities about the situation, and altogether 42 institutions responded in a day, They responded about the technical teaching solutions. The majority of the universities use Neptune, and other common platforms like Moodle, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Stream are also very usual. At the beginning of April, the Digital Collaboration by Artificial Intelligence Coalition started in the framework of the Digital Success Nonprofit Limited, supported by the Minister of Innovation and Technology. And the coalition collects offerings from the actors of digital industry to the ones need, and approximately 30 billion forint value offering was collected until then. On the 7th of April, a ministerial announcement, a very important announcement we received, accepting diplomas without language exam. The minister announced to accept and issue diplomas without the previously compulsory language exam requirement, and more than 75 diplomas can be issued, processes via application forms available on the institution's website. On the 10th of April, so if we go to the university bodies, on the 10th of April, the mitigating regulations regarding the spring semester announced by a government decree with the permission of electronic functioning and decision-making of the higher education bodies, including the senates, and the regulations for the issue of diplomas without language exams, and mitigations on the composition of the final examination committees. And on the 30th of April, a summary of the higher education institutional measurements and practices related to the emergencies and requested and collected by the ministries, and the ministry shared the difficulties and good practices also for the universities. And the turning point we can see on the 1st of May, that until the 1st of May, all of the measurements, all of the regulations was about tightening. Since the 1st of May, major part of the regulations is about easing. It started on the 1st of May with rectors outside Pest County can decide on teaching with personal presence. And the rectors can decide if students are allowed to visit the institution or not. This regulation was extended to the Pest County, so the central region of Hungary, on the 13th of May. And as of today, all rectors in Hungary can decide on teaching and making, of course, the exams with a personal presence. Let's see the latest developments. The two-level matriculation examinations are being organized in the determined timing between the 4th and 21st of May. This is a very important thing in Hungary, because these exams serve on the one hand as school leaving exams from the secondary schools, and on the other hand function as the admission exams to higher education. And the Hungarian Rectors Conference is supported this regulation to organize written exams in secondary schools. 2 weeks ago, 4 Hungarian medical universities started comprehensive virus screening tests in Hungary, led by the Semmelweis University, and 3 other universities are taking part in this test. And according to the first results, very few people find affected by the virus before or suffering by the virus now. 2 coronavirus patients received plasma serum containing antibody of people recovered. This is also a university and government cooperation result, and there was no complication due to the transfusion. The 2 patients cured with the serum recovered from the disease. The results are very promising. And let's see how universities handle the current situation. As of today, there is the exam period in Hungary, the university exam period, until the end of June. So the biggest question is how we organize the different exams and how we organize the final exams. We experienced that the universities are going online with teaching until the end of the spring semester, so until today. And in case of professional practices needed for different programs, some institutions require the completion of practice until a postponed deadline. Some apply assessment on individual basis, respecting the student's conditions. Some evaluate shorter period of practices as approved. And many universities have decided to organize online final examinations, and some of them organizing the final examination on the spot, so with the presence of the universities. So this was about the student side, the university side, and I'd like to share one slide about the researches and developments related to the virus. On the next slide, you will see 12 different researches and developments, and the major parts of these researches are about how we handle, how we care the virus. For example, the development of a mechanical ventilator by the Budapest University of Technology and Economics is a very important research, and also the mathematical modeling, analysis and projections of the spread of the virus pandemic in Hungary is also a very important research. But if you see the slide, you can see that the major part of the research organized or led by universities. So universities are playing a very significant role the virus-related research activity in Hungary. And finally, I'd like to highlight some challenges resulting from the pandemic. It's a big question in Hungary, the admission and enrollment of the students, not just the Hungarian, but the nearly 40,000 foreign students enrollment and admission procedure. Currently, we are planning to start the new academic year as scheduled, so in the first or second week of September. So we still have 3.5 months until. We have to consider the travel difficulties for international students, coping with the students' dropout from the universities. There is a threat about decreasing student population. And of course, it's a big issue, the quality of digital learning materials. It's a very important issue and task for all of us. I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And now we will go to our last speaker. We'll go to Multan, where we have Dr. Asif Ali. Dr. Asif Ali is the Vice Chancellor of University of Agriculture in Multan, and his job is not only challenging but very important because you know, agriculture is the backbone of almost every country. And so from him, we would like to know that how the agriculture students would be doing and what kind of teaching measures his university will adopt. So Dr. Asif Ali, University of Agriculture, Multan, Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Khalid. I appreciate CGSS to hold this webinar on a very important topic. And thank you very much for giving the intro in the right perspective. And this is what I wanted to say. My colleagues, Dr. Nyasa, and Faisal, all of them spoke very well. But my scenario or my university is different from those universities. One, that I'm a professional university, which is agriculture, which relates to food security. Number two, we are a new university. Number three, we are a relatively small university. And number four, that in my university, research leads the other classes or academics. So in this, background, I would like to explain that, because of the new university, and I'm kind of, the first vice chancellor, so 4 years ago, I had a very clear mind that the way we are growing in population, this will not be possible to have, such a number of buildings. So therefore, we should be thinking something ahead of having a kind of blended learning model. I mean, there is no substitute of physical presence. I agree. So this is what I thought, that, not 100% virtual and not 100% physical. So we were already, in majority of the courses, we were in a blended learning mode, and that had made easier for us to go for online teaching. But the other thing, I would like to give the credit to HEC also. They were kind of, on front line. They were every day discussing policies, finding solutions, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the universities have to find their own solution according to their own condition. So we are a university, agriculture, which is a university of agriculture sector. It is not education sector university, it is agriculture sector university. And in the agriculture sector, there are no holidays. There are no holidays, not even the weekends. So we have vested holidays, and historically, we never had our university faculty or the staff would be on holidays, on vested holidays, nothing, no summer holidays or no summer breaks. So in this particular scenario, when our challenges are, you can understand, we had wheat harvesting, for example. You cannot, take wheat harvesting away or cannot shift it online. Then we had our trials in the field on different crops, and we had to, harvest them. Then there are scenarios like mango picking. You might have heard that, in the Sindh, particularly, the mango picking has been started, and majority of the labor goes from South Punjab to the Sindh. So we had to develop SOPs for them. We had to develop SOPs for wheat procurement, wheat harvesting, and moreover, locust is a major threat. We had to optimize its doses, its monitoring, and things like that. So, in fact, we had to work differently from other universities. And moreover, I was clear from day one that in the universities, we are the most educated community. We are the role models for others. If we can, have kind of opening of other sectors. So the university faculty, most of them are PhDs. I mean, they could have served as role models, and this is the strategy we used. So, and likewise, I would like to expand on that. So, in my opinion, the agriculture university particularly and other universities should follow and particularly manage the universities in a way that we could have some degree of social distancing, all precautions implemented, and this is what we did. We had our own, for example, we made our own sanitizers. We made sanitizing kits, not for ourselves, for our engineering faculty, for other hospitals also. And we try to, carry on our activities which relates to food security, and that's what we would like to build upon that. So in my opinion, the first thing the university should be thinking of to bring the faculty back on campus, because of the fact that once the faculty or any organization where the employees, they go on rest, they are relaxed, it is very difficult to bring them to that intellectual mindset or the framework of that working thing. The next step should be that we should open at least the universities for postgraduate students. Okay, the university can take its own steps for precautions for giving access to the labs, to reduce the pressure of the students on the campuses. And then the third thing they should be doing, the university should be adopting is to bring the undergrads back for practical classes only. And that's, as things will move, we'll keep on kind of learning from the environment. And top of all, we had our international national projects, which were season dependent. So, there is, so there is a need that we have to catch up. We cannot keep sitting. We have to, we have to make, we can shift few things online, but few things has to be remain on ground with all precautions. We have to live, and we have learned over time that we have to live with this corona. Somebody was, Faisal was saying, for example, that the Spanish flu had many rounds, so we can expect rounds of corona also, but essentially we have to live with it. And food security is more important than any other threat. And likewise, our youth is our kind of capital. We cannot, waste its time. We have to, keep it along. We have to learn from this scenario. We have to learn internationally also. We can have a kind of think out model. We have to kind of, again, the blended learning type of model. But we must try to come up to this new norm. We have to become normal according to the new norms and, catch up with the things. So with these, I would like to endorse whatever my colleagues, particularly Dr. Niasa and other has had in the broader perspective of exams and classes and other things. So in addition to that, I had to kind of add my perspective being a professional at the university. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we have Miss Tanveer Riyasat. She is the Vice Principal of the Divisional Public School System based out of Vihari. Are you there, Miss Tanveer Riyasat? Miss Tanveer Riyasat is not here. Okay. So now we would just go for some comments from Mr. Tariq. Mr. Tariq Khatak is a young entrepreneur and he teaches entrepreneurship, and he has been holding the classes online and he has this experience. So I would just like him to share his experience, Mr. Tariq Khatak, and after from there onwards, we'll have the question and answer session. No, Tariq, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Hello, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you. Okay.
Are we good now? Yeah. So, I hope everyone is doing good. We just had a corona positive case in our office today, and we had to leave our offices, so I had to come home early. And anyways, let's all be safe at their homes and stay. I guess staying home would be more safer. So that kind of changes the way we will look at the education system right now. As everybody knows now that we have to live with this coronavirus now. Nobody knows what is going to be the timeline and when is it going to get over. When is it going to, the humanity is going to take over this coronavirus and itself, but rather as it seems that we are going to live with it for the next 2 or 3 months, even more, unfortunately. So, but then the learning process never stops for a human being. So there's a debate going on these days between having the conventional norms of the education system and then the online, going online for the whole system. In my opinion, there was a survey done a few years back, and then the same survey was repeated again for this year when this COVID-19 started off, and with the popularity of the online education system, which had a number of challenges for the students, plus for the academia to get adjusted to it. Rather, a bit on the lighter side, the students didn't have that much of a problem in adopting to the newer ways, but rather the academia had rather more problems in adopting the new ways of the online system, getting used to how to use the Google Classroom and getting used to a number of other platforms that they had never used before. But talking about that survey, they had predicted a rise of like this online education system is going to reach $320 billion worth of a market in the coming in the next 5 years, starting from 2019. And they have now even changed their statistics to more than 15% now, but that might reach around $380 billion for online education system. So that's a huge jump for any sort of a sector which might, so for that reason, the conventional education institutes these days, especially in this in the lockdown situation, needs to focus on the fact whether we would be able to jump on that very bandwagon which is getting a hype created now in the whole of the world, because Udemy was already there, Coursera was already there. The very faculty which are working in these particular institutions have their courses shared on Udemy and Coursera's and Khan Academy and stuff like that as well. So what I'm suggesting here is, like, our institutions needs to have two ways of learning and two ways of offering the education system now. We already have, in our Pakistan, we already have a very successful model running for the last, I don't know, I guess for 20 years now. Allama Iqbal Open University, they're offering their online courses. And now, not fully online courses, but rather they are switching to the complete full online courses. But our conventional education systems and institutes have the capacity, they have the budgets, they have the manpower, and they have the resources to switch completely to online courses being offered to the students as an alternative, right beside the conventional ways of offering those particular courses as well. So I guess, as Faisal Mushtaq Saab said, we are going to have the new normals, and I guess that those new normals are going to be like countless in number, because those new normals would be in our lives, in our careers. Those new normals would be in even in our education system. So for that reason, we need to adopt to the new normals. We need to look and focus on the very fact how many people would like, or how many parents would let their children come to the very institution that they're afraid of right now, and how many people, Mike, that is somebody else's. Anyways, and secondly, how many parents and the students would be willing to come to the institutes on their own, rather being forced to come to the institutions just for the fact that they need to open their institute and they need to justify their having those bigger university campuses already established in their vicinities or in their cities or on their countries. So I guess there should be an option given to the students. There should be an option given to the faculty as well, for working on the very fact there should be an alternative option given to these people, whether they are the students or whether they are the faculty. And secondly, I would like to, moderator, could you please mute this Ikra? I don't know whose mic is that. Yeah, so as far as the precautions goes, nobody can be more careful. Nobody can be more everybody's careful these days, by the way. So I guess I would sort of end up on this very note, to be very safe at your home, and the bigger institutions like Niaz Saab is sitting there. It's a pleasure, sir, having you there. I was looking forward to having a meeting with you, inshallah, and Faisal Mushtaq Saab as well, to offer you the platform before the COVID-19, but rather अब थोड़ा सा adjust करना पड़ रहा है इन हालात के साथ. तो inshallah once we are done with the COVID-19 we can have a physical meeting with Khalid Saab and you ourselves.
Thank you very much,
sir.
We have to go to question answer session now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now for the first question, we will go to Peshawar. In Peshawar, we have Dr. Zarmeena Baloch with us. She is a professor also, and she's a student of international. She has done her PhD also. Dr. Zarmeena Baloch.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My question is from Mr. Zotan from Budapest, Hungary. It's good to know about the active and positive role played by the universities in Hungary. But my question is, as you have mentioned that there are two-level matriculation examination would be held during May. And this is very important as some of the students will be leaving, it will be leaving examination for them, and for some it would be entering there. So my question is, how does senior management, they will encourage these students who are taking these exams or entrance or leaving to go through this learning process? Like what would be the measures the senior management would take, the steps that these students will learn, and they will then conduct the conduction of this examination during this pandemic. Thank you so much.
I would request our friends in Budapest to please answer the question.
The matriculation exam started on the 4th of May and ending on the 21st of May. And this exam is the final exam of the secondary school, and also a tool like an entrance examination to the universities. So according to the results of this exam, the students, the eligible students, will be entering to the different Hungarian universities. And as I told, the Hungarian Rectors Conference supported this government initiative to organize this exam in May and to organize this exam on a written, strictly just a written way. For example, and safety measures was introduced. For example, in one classroom, maximum 10 or 15 students was allowed, and so on. And as far as I knew, it was a very successful exam period, so it will be finished this week. And according to this exam, of course, the students can enter universities. And if we see the foreign students, we consider different regulations and different modifications in the procedures of the universities in order to allow those foreign students who don't have the matriculation exam this summer because of the pandemic. So a lot of new procedures and new tools will be introduced later this month or in June. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Samra Khan from Islamabad to ask the question, please. Ms. Samra Khan.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello. My question is for Mr. Niaz, Vice Chancellor of Punjab University. Sir, I would just like to question that after the partial or the full reopening of the university, keeping in view the different demographics of the students of Punjab University, how would you ensure that the students coming from different and distant area of Pakistan are properly checked and screened?
Vice Chancellor, Punjab University, sir.
Yeah, Khalid, I was asking her that what is, because she said I have two questions. So
No.
she mentioned first question, what is the second one also?
No, sir, I didn't say I have two questions. I just have one question, that after the reopening, the partial or the full reopening of the university, keeping in view the different demographics of the university students of Punjab University, how would you ensure the proper screening and checking of the students coming to attend the university?
Yes, I think, you know, you are very much related with Punjab University.
Yes,
we
sir.
have a good infrastructure where we have the testing facility.
Okay.
We have to test the students, as well as we have a very strong health center. So all the students entering the university, still we are preparing the SOPs. So when those are finalized, of course, these tests and health center, these will be integrated to allow the students to enter into the university. You got it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we will go to Peshawar. In Peshawar, we also have another student. Her name is Zahra. Zahra, you can ask your question, please.
My question is to Ms. Wang Huitang. It is that the health measures and protective measures taken by China has made it possible for them to open schools. But what will happen about the admission schedule that she mentioned in April?
Yes, this question is for Ms. Wang. Did you hear the question?
Yes, I got a question. You just asked about the measurement that Chinese government has taken to reopen the schools, right?
Yes, yes.
Actually, now we have more than 40% of Chinese students having classes right now. So that is the number of 100 million Chinese people, Chinese students. So as for the measurement you just asked about, all the students before they go into the campus, their temperature will be checked, and they have to make sure they have been in the city for more than
I think the connection is interrupted, and once she will have the connection again, we will go back to her again to China. Now I would like to invite Mr. Hamid Tufail. He also has a question. Mr. Hamid Tufail, are you online with us?
Yes, Khalid sir, thank you very much. I have a question from the distinguished speakers from Pakistan on their views and plans about investing and developing the model of blended e-learning with aided contents with pre-recorded lectures in English and local languages and e-assessments. And my second question is about their plan of training the teachers to manage blended e-learning tools.
For the answer of this question, first of all, I would like to request Vice Chancellor of Bahawalpur University, and after that, Vice Chancellor of Lahore University, and then Mr. Faisal Mushtaq.
Thank you very much. The Islamia University of Bahawalpur is following a strategy of training the teachers. The number of teachers we have is large, so what we have started is to train groups of teachers at a time, and for that we have prepared videos. There is a separate YouTube channel. You can see a number of videos, maybe 7 videos have already been released. They relate to the usage of the learning management system, that Moodle based system that we have. Although there is a lot of learning material already available on Moodle, but we have, based on our specific implementation and the activities that we want to enable in the first phase, we are training the teachers. Secondly, the Higher Education Commission and the Punjab Higher Education Commission also has been conducting training sessions in which our teachers have joined. And the Higher Education Commission has also made available a number of resources for training of teachers in usage of the online technologies. So those links are shared. Now, the proficiency of the teachers, we are in the process of assessing where our teachers stand after rolling out of the systems, after the basic training, and based on that, we will determine a more definite action plan for the future. At this time, we were more busy in rolling out and creating the basic training. We have established a separate director's office, which will focus on this particular aspect. And once we have assessed where our faculty members stand, although what we have seen that the faculty members are proficient in a number of different tools for creating content and distributing it through electronic means. That goes on from simple audio recordings of their lectures done at home to video sessions, or to preparing of videos, or collecting content and collating it in one form and distributing it to the students. So this is going to be a continuous process, and we are at this time doing an assessment of the needs, and we'll be doing that and then coming up with a strategy. As far as the infrastructure goes, we have already upgraded our data center. When the online delivery of courses started, we found out that the bandwidth that we had and the entire model of the data center and the resources we had was suitable for having 25,000 students on campus accessing materials from the internet. But when the tables got turned and shifted, when the 25,000 students moved to the homes, and the our data center became the source of information, we found out that we had to upgrade many of our internet links to provide more upload capability, and also we increased the number of servers in our data center.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we would like to hear the comments on this question from our Retd Vice Chancellor, Punjab University.
Khalid, as you know, our university is the oldest one, and we have a large number of resources, well-trained faculty. Therefore, that was the reason that we immediately shifted to the e-learning. So we used all the tools available in this technology in the e-learning process. So we are almost going to complete the coursework by 31st of May 2020 of the 8th semester or the even semesters which were on in the campus. So this is the first phase. We made 5 groups. They trained the remaining faculties, and this was a very successful exercise in terms of teaching online classes. As far as e-exams, still we are hopeful that in next couple of months the situation will be normal, and we will be able to have the traditional exams in the campus or out of the campus wherever our centers are there. In case the traditional exam is not possible, then we have designed another online exam model where we have integrated Moodles with a proctor. So we have made 300 centers, one invigilator for each center. Each center will have the 25 students. And our exam will be online exam, mainly MCQs, as well as some of the, because our university is a generalized university, some of the disciplines may need the open books exam. So some of the courses may have the mini project Viva. So we have allowed the relevant faculties go in the assessment of the students as per the nature of the subject. But one thing should be ensured, that the students should be facilitated in this time of crisis. The prime objective at the moment is that whatever was given the objectives of the program, that have been covered, and we are also expecting that their grades will not be less than the previous grades. So I think our training and our model is almost ready. We are just waiting because our session 4 years program will be completed in first week of October. That is why we have scheduled the exams in end of August. So first will be the traditional possibility. If not possible, then we will be going by online exam, and we will be completing our session within 4 years of time. Thank you, Khalid.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we would like to hear the views of Mr. Faisal Mushtaq, that what measures the schools in general and private sector they are taking. I would like you to comment on the overall private sector, please.
So you're asking me to comment on the measures that we will take post-COVID?
No, sir. I am asking you to comment on the measures which overall the private sector institutions in Pakistan are taking for the online education.
Ji, sir. So firstly, when the pandemic started, the first and the most important thing was online and digital engagement. So we, as an organization, the Millennium Education, 4 years ago, I invested in a learning management system. It's called Matrix. This is in collaboration with the Silicon Valley company. I had this basic question in my mind, that is school an extension of home, or is home an extension of school? So we went on the learning management system, which had both Android and iOS access, and also an internet-based access. So 15,000 of our students and parents, they logged on. So we put assignments there, projects there, activities there, real-time information exchange with the teachers, with the parents, with the mothers. Also with that, we used Microsoft MS Teams, and the teachers, they went online. Every child was given a username and a password. And then, so together up till from early years till grade 8, we used the learning management system, which was iOS and Android based. And then after that, for the IGCSE, Cambridge and higher education, we use the Microsoft MS Teams, because we have a Microsoft licensed educational partner. So in the private sector across the country, the urban schools, they were using online, but everyone had their own definition of online. I do not call sending emails is not online education. Exchanging queries on Facebook is not online education. And talking on WhatsApp is also not online. So the urban education schools, they did use Zoom, which is a free product. They did use Microsoft MS Teams, and they did use, some of them had their learning management systems. But there were 3 issues with the private sector of Pakistan across the country. Number 1 was quality, other one was connectivity, and the third one was access. So the parents were not used to the teacher can give the same quality on a digital lesson. So the digital trust was lacking. So basically, it took time to build that concept that the teacher can also teach digitally as well. And the second was the connectivity. You know, because internet connectivity, we have 100 million, 70 million people using the internet access. And, you know, so whereas in the rural areas, in the semi-urban and the peri-urban communities, internet access and connectivity is an issue. That's why I always say to the government of Pakistan and other countries that we need to move from e-learning to m-learning. So from electronic-based platforms to mobile-based platforms. And the third thing was access. So parents and mothers and fathers, they complained that in our household, we have 1 laptop and 1 digital toy. So parents did not have 3 laptops for 3 children or 3 desktops for 3 children. So access to different digital gadgets and machines was a problem. Connectivity was a challenge. And you know what you call it, quality, the digital trust was a challenge. It was not a challenge for us. That I'm talking about Pakistan. So for us, because we operate in urban and semi-urban areas, and our parents are very proactive. I must also appreciate that during the course of this discussion and this webinar, that the real hero of the pandemic, number one, is the healthcare workers. We all know that. But after the healthcare workers, I must say the parents of the children, they have played a positive role. As these urban parents, they really moderated their children routine. They put them to sleep, they put them together, and they have helped the teachers. Of course, teachers were playing a role, but teachers are trained to play that role to be a teacher. Parents were not trained to play the role of a chaperone teacher. So I did see a lot of social transformation. Parents need appreciation. Of course, teachers need appreciation, but collectively, we need to build consensus. So, lockdown, what kind of a lockdown? We call it a phased lockdown. Then the fruit and vegetable markets are open. When we say that the air travel is allowed, then we say that logistics need to move. So when we want to talk about lockdown, it should be a holistic lockdown. When we want to talk about a phased lockdown, then it should be a phased lockdown. I see that the lockdown becomes discriminatory. It should not be a discriminatory lockdown. It should be an advocacy-based, awareness-based, protocol-based, and contingency-based lockdowns. So if we want to reinitiate and revisit our classrooms, then we need to prepare the society and the nation that this is the only way forward. As the Europeans and the Chinese, they have gone back to the classroom.
Thank you very much, sir. It was quite a comprehensive reply. Now I would just like to ask our friends in Budapest that what kind of online education system are your universities adopting in Hungary?
If you see you can see my third slide, and so there is a national system called Neptune system. It's a national online system, and of course a lot of universities, majority of the Hungarian universities use other common platforms like Moodle, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Stream. So it's just if you see the slides, the title of the slide is Safety Measures and Regulations. And Meet Street, CoSpace, Blue Jeans, Skype for Business, YouTube, Google Classroom, GoToMeeting, BeBlue, Button, Discord, Coursera, Edmodo, Slack, TickerCard, Pegaso, OneDrive, SharePoint, and so on. And softwares related to special or technical courses like MATLAB, Octave, Kahoot, Redmenta, Mentimeter, Panopto, Socrative. So according to our latest evaluation and the latest survey, these platforms and softwares are used in by the Hungarian universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, for the same question, we will go to Multan. Dr. Asif, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Sir, we would like to know that since in the agriculture university, it's a combination of mostly the research, physical research work and the theoretical work. So how are you planning to combine the physical research work of the agriculture related students with the theoretical work online?
Well, as I have already explained, we are kind of developed systems which include videos and online lectures for the online lecturing and some demonstrative things. However, for postgraduate research, we have developed SOPs. The students were there, for example, the final year students, they were doing their research, and some part was that they are allowed, across, the whole week, in a given time slot, they can come and do their experiments. We are already, in this whole region, we are establishing BSL-3 labs for addressing these pandemic patients also. And moreover, some of my faculty is already living further. Right now, at this point of time, the locust is already in the field in this region. And we are kind of handling it, with sprays and with other techniques and, addressing people there. So I'm kind of normalizing the things as per need. So I would expect that after Eid, there will be some, I expect there will be some relaxation that the students can come at least for practicals in a kind of sparsely dispersed mode. And that's how I would like to, and moreover, let me mention, I forgot, about 500 internees are already in the field. They were with the farmers, they were with the agro industry, they were pesticide companies, seed companies, and other than that, there are other businesses. We were doing a kind of outreach project where the internees were already there. Some of them were sponsored by the job government, some of them were sponsored by the industry. So they had no holidays, so they had to work in that mode with all precautions in place. We have to serve the farmers and the industry. So I would like to kind of bring the students back, but not with full kind of momentum, let's say, or with in distributed way, that they are not gathered more than 1,000 or 2,000 students at a time, and then they are kind of engaged in lab work and field work there.
Very much, sir. And now we will be heading towards the closure of the session because it's already 2 hours. And I would now request Major General Khalid Jafri, who's the president of the Center for Global and Strategic Studies, to please give his closing remarks.
After having listened to the top educationists of the country and abroad, of course, this has left us much wiser on what is happening abroad and what are the different ideas which have come up with regards to the reopening of the schools. And I'm sure when we send our recommendations to the government, this would certainly have an effect.
Thank you very much, sir. Probably we have lost the connection, and now on behalf of all of us, I would like to request the Vice Chancellor Punjab University to please thank the Rector of the Budapest University and our Chinese friends and all the participants. Let me just tell you that Vice Chancellor Punjab University is also, Ji sir. Ji sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you.
Yes. So I must thank all the participants, and I must, I must thank all the participants who have given us some very good ideas, and this exchange of ideas, I'm sure, would be very beneficial to our government when we give our recommendation also. So thank you very much to all the panelists, the vice chancellors, and our friends from abroad. Thank you.
Dr. Niaz, sir.
Khalid, thank you very much. I must appreciate once again your CGSS and my colleagues from Pakistan, especially Dr. Akram, Dr. Asif Ali, Mr. Faisal Mushtaq, who have given a very good feedback about the online education and post-COVID effects and precautions. I'm grateful to Mr. Zaltan from Hungary, as well as to Professor Xu Winhang from China, as well as Ms. Wang from China Media Group. I think everyone has given valuable input in this situation, what they are doing and what should be done for during the reopening of the institutions or the schools. I think this is a very rightly and timely your decision to have the discussion on this very important topic. And really, we have also learned from all the participants, and I will request you, please keep doing all these exercises, because these are very useful. Since all the public or the private institutions, this is a special situation, circumstances. No institution was ready for it. But again, I will repeat the same thing, that the directions, new innovative ideas, these should come from the higher education institutions. And I'm grateful that you have taken the lead in bringing those ideas from institutions to the decision makers. I do hope these will be very useful for the society. Thank you very much once again to all the participants, to the CGSS. Great initiative, Khalid and General Jafri. Thank you very much, sir.